This is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Welcome to a more civilized podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. You may not go about your business. Stay here, listen, and then move along.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a more civilized podcast. I'm Kyler.
I'm Chris.
I'm Ross.
And we are excited to be here again. Lots has happened. Lots of discussion has happened since our last episode. Some of which we cursed ourselves for not recording.
Stop talking!
Yes. Yeah, Ross
Poor
over
Ross.
here was chastising us for talking while not under the influence of a microphone. So
Under the influence of a microphone.
It does weird things to you, man.
It does.
Yeah.
Jacks
you're
you
not
up.
wrong.
So yeah, it's been fun. We're excited for this episode. It should be a good one. We're going to desperately try to restrain ourselves in both the depth of discussion and length of discussion so we can hopefully get our podcast down to a more manageable hour-ish. That's been the goal this whole time, and we do apologize for it not being quite there yet.
I don't apologize.
I think we'll do better when it's not, we're talking about
Sure.
Yeah, where we're less
movies at a
overarching.
time.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway, Ross, you want to go ahead and take away the news?
Yes. So today we have some interesting points of casting announcements.
Yeah.
This week there have been several notable figures that have been added to the episode 9 roster. Several of which I'm so excited about, being a Doctor Who fan. So first of all, of course, we have Matt Smith, who was the 12th Doctor.
For the notes for this episode, my notes literally said, "Holy crap, Matt Smith."
And there's also
Matt's 11.
No.
he's 11, isn't he?
Yeah, he's number 11.
Dang, I
Really?
just got my doctor card.
I only remember because David Tennant is number 10.
Oh,
right.
And that's
see,
how I
and
always
wrote
remember.
number 12 in the notes because I looked it up because I'm not a Whovian. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
really
yeah.
know or care about or like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So I looked it up and it
Capaldi's
said
12.
he was the 12th. So I don't know.
Well,
It
but
depends
I mean,
on whether or not you're counting the War Doctor.
or if you get into the lore of Matt Smith dying and then being brought back.
Yes,
due
but
to-
we're not. He's number 11.
this is
Welcome-
also
welcome to
not
the-
a Doctor Who podcast.
Yes.
That's right.
Sorry,
Anyway,
we don't want to get our British sci-fi and our American sci-fi here.
Yeah, we don't cross the fandom streams, right?
That's right.
that's right. Well, except now they're doing it for us.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So, yes, Matt Smith is joining the cast. I am very excited about because he was my doctor. Loved the speeches that he gave throughout the series. I mean, he just does it well.
Do we want to give some quick speculation on what we might think he does?
I have a hard time with Mr. Cheekbones himself. I cannot picture him being any sort of actual human character. Like, he's got to be an alien. Not just the Doctor
No,
type of alien,
but
but I
see-
picture him with some significant makeup and everything. I want to see that.
I could see him as like a high-ranking, like Imperial or
That's fair.
First Order,
First Order,
I
could see him in First
big
Order.
bad, speech
I would
giver
love
kind
to
of a
see
thing.
him play a bad guy. Like, I mean, more bad than, Mr. Collins was
Yeah.
really a bad guy.
Or he was the Terminator, wasn't he? In Terminator Genesis, he
was he?
Yeah, I think
I
he
never
was
saw
the.
that.
There was a brief future scene where he was the Terminator, but then it goes back. Anyway.
So he's going
we
to be a
don't know.
battle droid, an assassin droid.
Oh, that could be sure. He could be. Yeah.
But no, I think he's too recognizable, too high dollar of an actor now because of Doctor Who. I don't think they'd cover him up in makeup.
It depends on whether he's willing to.
Well,
because
I don't know. Zoe Saldana got covered up in makeup.
Yeah, Zoe did for Guardians of the Galaxy and everything.
But you still see it's Zoe.
And
Yeah.
I mean, she had
oh man, I
green
can't believe
face paint.
Lupita. I don't know if I'm going to say her.
yeah.
Nyong'o, or I don't know how to say her
Oh
last name. I
yeah,
apologize.
doing Maz.
Yeah, doing
Yeah.
Maz. I was
Yeah.
surprised when they had her as Maz. I was like, really? She's just voicing. That's wow. Okay, cool. But
And motion capture.
Yeah.
and motion capture. Yeah, but
But you don't see.
she's
her,
not
though,
one I
is the
thought they
thing.
would hide behind.
Yeah.
I didn't know who she was before.
Really? Oh
Before,
yeah. She's
yeah.
awesome. She's great.
Well, I've seen her in like Black Panther now and everything. Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah, she is in that. Yeah, she's great in that.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's Black
She's the
Panther's
love interest.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, she's great.
That's right. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, she
I was really
does
excited
the whole
when they
super
cast
spy
her.
stuff. Yeah. After that, we have Richard E. Grant. Now, he's the one that's not known so well here in the States. He's done a lot of stuff over in the UK. I knew who he was because he was in a Doctor Who Christmas episode.
Oh, which one?
He was the winter is the winter is coming guy. The one it's Matt and Clara.
Yeah, Matt and Clara, and he's the dad that hired her as governess. Is that who you're talking about? Or?
Yeah, he is. He is.
Okay.
But then he also comes up later with that whole speech of the man who lies no more. will lie no more when he lies at Trenzalore. Is how it goes.
Oh, wait. So that's the... Yeah, no. Oh, okay. I know who Grant is.
He pops up twice.
He's got to be a bad guy.
He was in the Christmas episode, then he pops up
so
later
he's not
again
the
in
one
the
that
season.
hired her as governess. He was the one that was the boy that grew up and was linked to the... Anyway, I'm sorry.
Whatever. Yeah, again, not a Doctor Who
Look him up.
podcast.
That's what I'm
Richard
trying to do.
Grant.
Great job. Has a great voice. Like, really just,
Awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
very, very proper British.
Okay, then I know.
So he's definitely going to be First Order then.
I think, well...
I think odds are good with him.
But the thing is that these
Okay.
more recent movies have broken the trend of the British are always on the Empire and the Americans are always rebellion.
They have not broken the trend of everybody in the First Order, with the exception of Gwendolyn Christie that never shows her face, and Finn, who only becomes a good guy once he shows his face. They're all white dudes.
True.
But I mean,
And
as far as-
British. Gwendolyn Christie and Hux are the only people we really see speaking, and even the officers and stuff on the bridge in like Force Awakens and
Anyway,
Last Jedi.
but so is Matt Smith, and
Yeah.
so I mean, there's a lot of filming in Britain, so they get a lot of British actors.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily.
And my point is just that they're bringing British actors to the good side.
Yeah,
So, which they
that's
didn't
also
before.
possible.
Next is
So John Boyega is also British. So.
Yeah, because Alec Guinness was totally a baddie.
Yeah, there's that too.
You're right. Okay.
Point.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well done. I do concede.
But that just means that Richard Grant won't necessarily be a bad guy.
True. Yeah.
He just usually is a bad guy in anything he shows up in.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
That'll be great, though. I'm excited for him. Next one is an actress named Naomi Ackie. Not one I had ever heard of before, partially because she hasn't actually done a lot. Her IMDb profile only has like 6 or 7 credits to her name, although one of them was in one episode of Doctor Who. So again,
Yeah.
3 of
She's
those
a British
people-
actress. She's going to be in Doctor Who at some point.
It's true.
Well, but Star Wars also has a good history of plucking no-names out of the crowd, and they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the original trilogy, but even in the prequels, I mean, there were still a lot of people that
Ewan
were
McGregor
not
was not that well known when they snagged him.
Right, exactly.
And
Episode 1 was kind of what gave him his start.
And he did a great job.
Well,
And
then I think it was
and
Moulin
heck,
Rouge next for
Natalie
him,
Portman
and
and
then
Keira
Big Fish.
Knightley were both very much unknown.
right,
as
I'm thinking Oscar Isaac
a lot
as
of people
well
don't even know Keira
for
Knightley's
Force
in it.
Awakens. He does a great job.
I do love Oscar Isaac. He is
So,
everywhere these days. though.
well, he's everywhere these days because
He's great.
Star
Yeah,
Wars,
because
right? And
he is.
he's
He
good, but
deserves it,
he was a relative unknown. So I'm looking forward to great things from
So-
this Naomi Ackie.
So do you think she'll be more mainstream then, instead of a maybe
Could
peripheral side character because of that reason?
I don't know.
It would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
But next after that is Carrie Russell. Carrie's done... She's one of those actors that
Felicity.
Yeah, she's done several things, and I almost guarantee you all have seen her face. You probably won't remember her name, though.
Gotcha.
She was the mom in August Rush. She was Felicity
Oh,
on the TV show.
no way.
Felicity. Yeah.
The Mom on August Rush.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, see?
Felicity and Felicity. If you
Yeah,
remember
I like
that.
August Rush. That's a good show.
And I guess she's
Good
doing
movie.
a newer show now called The Americans, which I hadn't seen, but I guess she's in a leading role there as well.
Oh, this next one I was so excited for.
Yes. Mary from Lord of the Rings
Yes.
is joining Dominic Monaghan, so we're all excited about that one.
Oh, that's going to be good. I don't even care which side he's on, what he's doing. I'm just excited.
Yeah. What would you have him do?
Don't know. I hope they don't have him play a mini character because he's done that.
Yeah, no, I don't think they would either, but...
Oh, they might.
But
Well-
and he is fairly short,
he is.
so I mean,
He could, but. And that's the thing. It's always funny to me to look at these things, and it's just like we may never see their face at all.
Yeah.
We never saw Alan Tudyk in Rogue One. We never see any of it. They could just be a voice of a.
Oh, but Alan
See-
Tudyk was there in our hearts.
Alan Tudyk could read a phone book for 2 hours, and it would be entertaining.
Yeah, it sure would.
he was in our empty, spirit-filled hearts.
Oh.
No, thanks.
Are our hearts empty then if they're filled with spears?
Filled with the wrong things.
Oh,
Yes.
there we go.
All of these actors are too big, really. Though I feel.
Yeah, this is an
It's a
unusually
pretty,
large
yeah,
list.
To be in
Naomi's-
the
yeah.
background, like we had like Simon Pegg was in Force Awakens because he was inside Unkar Plutt's
Body.
prosthetics.
Yeah.
Also the guy that did James Bond.
Daniel
Idris
Craig was a
Daniel Craig
stormtrooper.
was
Okay, Daniel
Stormtrooper.
Craig. I was like, Idris
Yeah.
Elba was in it. I would have noticed that.
No, Idris Elba is not being.
He is busy
James
over on
Bond.
Asgard. What are you talking about?
Have you seen all that?
I have heard
Idris
a lot
Elba
of,
and-
a lot of
I'm
people
not
want
doing-
Idris
yeah,
Elba.
anyway.
But James Bond.
Yeah,
I would enjoy
Daniel
that.
Craig was the one who Ray mind controls, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that is him.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too is it's Star Wars. I think there's a lot of actors that'll be like, you know what? I'm okay with a small role if I get to be in Star Wars.
I would do
I would.
anything.
See, those big names.
Granted, I'm not a big name actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Not
those big
yet.
names that we just mentioned, they did cameos. Right, because they were never announced, and so they were just in cameo type roles.
Yeah.
Well, Unkar, I mean, isn't really a cameo, but also no one knew it was Simon in there
at Simon's request. But also the cameos were also announced as almost as cameos, like, oh, look for Daniel Craig's cameo, kind of a thing.
So I remember that Simon Pegg,
where they're making a big deal this time of saying, guys, Matt Smith is going to be in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like the marketing. An announcement feels different than the cameos in the past. So,
well, and it's like with Last Jedi, and I don't remember her name. She was Dr. Sadler in Jurassic Park.
Oh, Holdo.
yeah, Holdo. What is her name?
I always forget.
Laura Dern?
No, not Laura Dern.
Crap. Yeah.
Something similar. I don't remember.
Apologies. My internet's not working on my phone right now, or I'd look her up.
But like they announced that she was in there, but never gave us anything as to what she was doing until fairly close to when.
And that was
the movie
fairly
released.
significant role.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like all these actors here are going to be. We're going to see them and know who they are when they're on screen. So.
It is Laura Dern. I was right.
Is?
Both
my
of you.
apologies. I was.
I
got to figure out who the person I'm picturing is. Then
you had me so doubting. I was like, geez, how did I not know one of my main Star Wars people?
Sorry, Laura, we love you.
Yeah.
No, she'll never come on the show, Ross.
I know. We're just ruining.
We're running out of. There's so few actors in Star Wars.
We're burning through our future guests.
All those bridges.
Oh boy,
gone out the wind.
What are we gonna do? Okay,
anyway.
So I think that's all the news. Yeah,
it is.
I don't follow.
But we have written down anyway.
Okay.
Ooh, Chris, take it away.
Yeah, so a bit of history on how these new movies. Today we're talking about the new trilogy, of which we only have 2 movies at this point. If you're listening to this from far enough in the future, then hey, congratulations.
You know what episode 9 is.
We envy you. But
we envy you now, but not
we
later
won't envy you.
when you're listening.
Once
Time
anyway,
travel.
This isn't a Doctor Who episode.
So far it is. But and then of course we have the new standalones. First time we've ever gotten actual standalone theater released movies. And because of course
those
the
movies
holiday
are
special
Rogue
does not
One
count.
and Han Solo.
And Solo.
Solo. Yeah, sorry,
Star Wars
Solo.
movie, yeah.
So, Lucas had a lot of story. He always had a lot of story that he wanted to tell, and even as he was working on the prequels, he had ideas for sequels as well that he had kicked around. But by the time he was done with the prequels, he was generally very firm on, I've got these ideas, and he'd talk about them occasionally, but no, I'm not going to make them. That's not going to be me if they ever get made. I'm not doing it. And so, come a couple years later, Lucas decided he was going to sell LucasArts, which included all the rights to the Star Wars... Lucasfilm, thank you.
Yeah.
Which LucasArts went with.
Right.
LucasArts being the video game company.
Well, LucasArts was actually dead by that point, but anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, thank you. I don't know this quite as well as I'd hoped. So, Lucasfilm sold to Disney for $4 billion. Tiny little chunk of change.
In October of 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Lucas did this because, according to him, he wanted Star Wars to keep going. And he wanted this to be a huge generational thing where there's always more and it's expanding and new things are happening. And he felt like, though, that he wasn't really the person to keep doing that. And where he had some ideas and stuff, he loved it, but he wanted, Lucas has always been about innovation. He wants to do new things. He wants to find new places, show new techniques, all this sort of stuff. And I think that is a large part of what came through when he did this, is he wanted new people to bring new ideas to it. And so he up and he sold it and he passed on the torch, which I actually think was a great idea. In a lot of ways. I don't know if I could ever do that with anything I wrote. So, but all the more respect for that. So he sold that to Disney, and Disney told us, okay, great, we own Star Wars, we're going to start cranking out Star Wars movies. We are going to put out a Star Wars movie a year for the foreseeable future. Which made me go, I don't know if I can handle that.
The foreseeable future, * ending in 2020.
The foreseeable future ending in 2020, and then we'll see. Which they specifically planned for this to be a trilogy of a sequel trilogy, which is The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi so far, with an unnamed ninth movie, Episode 9, to come out in 2019, and then a trio of standalones, so alternating between the trilogy and the standalones each year, And that is how we got our current new crop of movies. Was Lucas passing that on to someone else in Disney, going, "Hey, we really, really like our new policy of just buy everything and start cranking it out. So we'll do that.
Own the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Own all the media properties of the world.
As long as they just keep doing a good job, I'm still okay with it.
And that I also would love to really quick mention. Actually, I watched a YouTube video the other day. It was. Did you ever watch any of Nostalgia Chick's videos?
No.
On YouTube, she's a film critic. I can't remember her name right now. I apologize, Nostalgia Chick. She no longer goes by Nostalgia Chick, but she still occasionally posts videos of her doing film review and stuff. And she did one on the new live-action Beauty and the Beast movie. And at the beginning of that movie, she gave that video, which I highly recommend you look up. I don't know. We'll link it in like our liner notes or something. We'll see. But she discussed Disney's movie-making policy, and more specifically, their money-making policy. Because in order for them to make money, they have to make movies. And basically, it breaks down. She did this very well, and I'm not even going to try and do it justice. But to put simply, Disney's policy is, we make money. Everything we're doing is aimed at making money, which is delightfully frank for a corporation, I think. And but in order to make money well, we need to make movies well, is basically how it breaks down. And so they try to make solid movies and churn them out at a decent pace, because they know that the better the movie, the more people are going to talk about it, the more people are going to want it and are going to want more of it. And so, but it's an interesting, like, a lot of people go into, we're going to make art, and I want to make the story I want to tell. That's how Lucas approaches these things, is I want to tell the story I want to tell. I want to innovate in the way I want to innovate. Disney is approaching this as, we want to make money, and the best way to make money is to make quality products. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that's not necessarily what's the case. Sometimes it's, we're going to make what people want so that they will spend more money on it. What they want is going to be more important than quality. It's kind of a dangerous little line they're walking, where it's like, we can count on them for quality stuff because they know that quality sells, but we can also count on them to follow the money wherever the money's going to be, even if that's not a quality path. It's an interesting area to go into. So that brings us to our new movies.
Yeah. So this episode's going to be a little bit bouncing back and forth, because we have two movies in a trilogy to talk about that obviously the stories tie into each other. Yeah. They kind of go together, and then
are yet incomplete.
And they're yet incomplete, which is a challenge for this episode anyway. And then we have two other movies whose stories do not necessarily interact, that are standalones, but we're still going to try to address the same issues across the board for
there are
all
some
of them.
United things across all of them that we can discuss, and we might occasionally be like, well, hold up, let's just talk about the standalone.
Exactly. One more thing to finish off the history. So,
please.
I promised to tell this story. I haven't told either of these guys this story yet. So, George Lucas, it came out not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, what Lucas intended the sequel story to be.
I will real quick interrupt you. I was going to mention that, when Lucas sold LucasArts, Lucasfilm, he gave Disney all his notes on what he had thought of for the sequel trilogies, and Disney politely set those aside, more or less.
And you will thank the force that they did after this story. So, his story, or his idea, was basically, in the original trilogy, we had sort of the baseline. It's about this boy, Luke Skywalker, and sort of his immediate family, sister Leia, father Vader, and sort of the conflict there. But it was a relatively confined storytelling space, if that makes sense. It really centers all around Luke and really doesn't deviate too much from Luke. Then they went macro. With the prequel trilogy. We're talking about the entire galaxy. There are tons of characters, tons of, senators and stuff involved. This is a very macro story that, while yes, Anakin Skywalker features centrally in it, there's a whole lot that we're going to show you that doesn't have a lot to do with Anakin. The sequel trilogy that he planned was going to go micro. And by that, I mean focus on the midichlorians. He was going to double down on the midichlorians.
Oh my.
Oh yes, prepare your face palms now, people. The midichlorians were apparently going to be a sentient life form on the microscopic scale that was running the whole show all along. That they were basically just controlling the universe, pulling the strings on everything that had happened.
And now that you say that, how did we not address that in our last episode?
Yeah, the things that were bad.
We'll have to
prequels.
discuss that in our Phantom Menace episode, because they didn't really bring those up again after that.
Yeah.
Fortunately. Yeah. So the fact, they didn't bring it up after that because everybody hated it and it's a dumb idea. So why in the world, Lucas, were you going to double down on that?
I actually can discuss some positives on that idea.
Boy. But to do an entire trilogy on a microscopic, there are these microscopic creatures who are also sentient and can use the Force and control it.
So
and
let's tell Horton Hears a Who in the Star Wars universe.
Essentially. Oh my gosh, it would have been so bad.
You have a big yellow bus with a driver with red frizzy hair and a classroom of school children.
Yes.
Then it works.
Yes, there you go.
Younglings.
So this is the pile of notes that Disney examined upon the sale of Star Wars.
That was a dark joke.
Sorry, it was, man. I don't know.
I love it. No.
Yeah. So that is the story that Lucas pitched to them as, hey, maybe you could do this for your sequel. Presumably Bob Iger's eyes bulged out of his head, and he tried not to explode and said, well, all right, we'll keep that in mind, George. Thank you. Handshake, sign it over. Okay, thanks, bye. Throw those in the dumpster immediately. Light the dumpster on fire, people.
That's right.
We dodged a very serious Death Star laser beam there.
Wow.
By missing that story.
Dang.
I kind of want to see that now.
No, stop.
No, I know. I don't.
Oh, it would have been so bad. Anyway, so there's that's what we narrowly avoided, people.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed that.
I'm going to be distracted for the rest of this episode just thinking about that.
Oh, darn it.
Because, you know what? I think we can agree it might be better than the Christmas special.
Well,
we'll
I don't know.
Production value would be better.
That would be the only thing, I think. Yeah, shoot. Okay, so let's dive into the actual episode. Let's talk about
maybe
these.
Someday we'll get a Marvel Star Wars crossover where Ant-Man goes into
goes into the midichlorian dimension. Oh, jeez.
And you know what? I would be all there for a Star Wars Marvel crossover.
Marvel does have the comic book rights.
Let's just do.
They should totally do it.
A non-canon thing. Totally just just a mashup of all the characters. Let's just play there.
We'll do that. We'll do
someday.
We'll do a Marvel
do
versus Star Wars bracket.
We should. Yes. That's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So, talking about, as we have done the past couple episodes now, let's talk about the impact of the new trilogy. Or the new movies, the Disney purchase, that kind of stuff. All right. One thing that I wanted to talk about that I thought was kind of an interesting trilogy in itself is we were all not born yet when the original trilogy came out, so we grew up with this as kids from time immemorial. Then we got to see the prequel trilogy as teenagers, going to the theater, experiencing that, seeing the fun and our eyes lighting up as, the big crawl opens up in every movie, that excitement, that wonderful feeling. I don't know how old your kids are, Chris, but
I've not taken them to the theater. But
I have got to take my kids now to the theater and watch their excitement at the big, beautiful Star Wars movie, and to just experience that as a father and to see their excitement. I'm like, yes, exactly that right there, that sparkle in your eye, that excitement of just everything going on, the spectacle of Star Wars. That's what it's all about. And oh man, how cool it is to share that moment with my kids.
Because it has been minimized for me because I'm deliberately keeping my son from Star Wars until I can reveal it. So yeah, we get some of that. But
it was just awesome. It's sort of become tradition with this since Disney's bought it. I was in grad school when Disney bought everything, they bought it, but the movies hadn't come out yet. By the time Force Awakens, the first Disney produced Star Wars film, came out, I was in grad school, and the grad students all wanted to go see it. I wanted to go see it right when it comes out because I'm an adult now and I can choose to spend my money that way, thank you very much. So I was like, I will be there at the first show on Thursday night in the nicest theater we could find. We went to see it, and then the grad students were all the rest of the grad students in my department wanted to go see it Friday night because they were all busy and weren't willing to sacrifice sleep like I was Thursday night. So we went to see it with them Friday night, which meant the first available opportunity to take my kids to see it was Saturday. So it's sort of become that, and it happened like that with every Star Wars movie, where my wife and I would go to see it Thursday. We'd see it with the grad students on Friday. We'd take the kids Saturday morning to see it. And so that's kind of become our new tradition.
So my fun story for these is I went to, up until Solo, I went to each of these movies within a day of it releasing. But I did not buy tickets on time for any of these. See, when Force Awakens came out, that very first teaser, I went, I don't know about this. We'll see.
Really?
Yeah. That very first one I did not like. I liked the others. The trailers after that restored my faith. And that's actually what happened, is tickets went on sale when the first trailer came out, not that initial teaser.
Oh, no, okay, not the teaser.
The first teaser. The tickets went on sale when that first trailer came out. I didn't bother to watch the trailer. I was kind of like, I've been burned. I don't.
You've been hurt before.
Yeah, I've been hurt before. I don't know what's going on. And I'm so busy with work and with family and with all this stuff. And my wife and I swore off midnight releases a long time ago. We're too old for that. And so I was just like, I'm not going to worry about it. And so I didn't watch that trailer all day. And ticket sales were going on that whole time. And then I got home that night and I was sitting on the couch doing some stuff. And I was like, I'm doing some work. And I was like, all right, I am going to watch that real quick. I might as well. I don't feel like working. I'm going to goof off on YouTube. Pulled that up, watched it, and it just slowly built where I was just like, Star Wars. And I just went, what have I done? What have I done? I didn't order tickets. It's already too late to get into that opening. What have I done? And I was just like heartbroken because I was like, I'm not going to get into that for like 2-3 days at this point already. And I just had to resign myself to it. And then my cubicle mate, so then my neighbor next to me at work, he also a big Star Wars fan, very nerdy, great guy. I have to introduce you guys to him sometime. But we're talking as the release is nearing. And I mentioned that, and he's just like, do you want to buy my tickets? And I was just like, wait, what? And he's like, I've got tickets for opening night. I bought them for me and my wife, but then my wife's family bought all of us tickets for a showing that's an hour earlier than mine.
Oh my goodness.
And so we're going at 10 o'clock, but I've got 11 o'clock tickets. If you want them, you can have them at price. And I just went, yes!
You are a lucky
And I got
guy.
it. Yeah. And then on Rogue One, I once again was just like, I know better this time. I want to go, but I just didn't have the time. Money was tight, and it was just like, well, we'll get around to it when we get around to it. And then my brother-in-law's company got rented out a couple theaters for the whole company, and they were allowed to bring a couple extra people. He had a couple extra tickets, and they're like, if anyone knows anyone that wants to go to Star Wars, we got some extra tickets you can snag. So he snagged a pair for me and my wife, and then he did the same thing for Last Jedi, so I got to see both of those right within 24 hours of opening.
A fortuitously well-connected man.
Yeah, and then Solo, I waited like 3 days to see Solo, and before my sister and I were just like, hey, you want to go to the movies? We'll go to the movies. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I want to see Solo. Do you have anyone to go with who wants to see Solo? No?
Do you know anyone with free tickets?
No, not that lucky that time.
And see, Kyler and I would sit there and wait because they would announce the day they were gonna start releasing tickets and how it was going to be during a football game.
Oh, yeah,
was it Super Bowl?
No, I can't remember.
Whatever it was.
They were
going to release the trailer.
We're not sporty people. We don't sport, really.
We really don't. Fencing.
Games. Yeah, that's the thing. And so we wouldn't even be watching the game. We would just kind of be hitting refresh on like the ticket pages and things. You know.
Yep.
Watch the trailer, buy the tickets. Hopefully you get in, that sort of thing. The tickets I bought for Force Awakens. So okay, I, in my excitement, had picked the wrong theater.
I remember this.
Oh my gosh. And so I got these tickets, thought they were for the close theater, the local theater, and I mean, it was weeks and weeks away, I hadn't really been thinking about it. The day of, and actually I was taking a girl to go see them, and before I met my wife, sorry honey,
she knows there were other girls before you met her. It's okay.
Still, Star Wars is our thing.
That's fair.
And now I'm distracted from my story. Right, so
the theater was far away.
The theater was far away, but I hadn't looked at the tickets until
that day.
like an hour or two before it was time for the showing. Well, and the theater that I had purchased tickets for was an hour away. And so I'm looking at these tickets, like, honestly, like, getting ready, getting my shirt on, you know, hair done, whatever. And I'm looking at the tickets and I go, oh no. We gotta leave, like, literally 5 minutes ago. Literally, to get there on time, I was 5 minutes too late in looking at the tickets. And so I called up the girl and was like, hey, I did a terrible thing. We need to go now.
Anyway.
Yeah. And so luckily, you know, I picked her up. We got going down on the road. And we did eventually make it to the theater. Of course, at that point, it was packed, and it was in, you know, a very dense part of town, so there was no parking. I think I ended up parking in front of a dumpster. Did not have a ticket, which was amazing.
You are lucky.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I could not believe I
The
did
force
not
was
have a
with
ticket.
you.
Yeah, I think
right.
I think the reason why was because it was snowy, and so the ticket person couldn't really see where if there were lines or not.
Snow sometimes is advantageous.
It's
that
true.
way.
It's true. Because I mean, I was
Love those December releases.
I was so pissed at myself because I was so excited for this movie. Finally, someone that was going to, you know, redeem Star Wars from all of the hate from the prequels, you know. And so I wanted to be there on time for every second of it. We ended up walking into the theater and getting to our seats as Finn and Poe are making their escape from.
Oh wow,
Star
that's
Destroyer.
quite a bit.
That's
Yeah.
a significant challenge.
Like the first line I heard was the woman who's sitting at the console saying, like, they're I don't know if they'd just been hit or if they were headed back to Jakku, I think was her line. Anyway, it's just one scene with this one woman in front of the screen. That's the first thing I saw walking in.
That's
And
too
so
bad.
then, you know, it was even worse because we're getting there, watching the thing. Okay, you know, I've been updated on who's in the movie. You know, I kind of know, okay, that's Finn, that's one of our protagonists. You know, we're good. Walking through the desert, gets to Jakku, meets Rey, or gets to what's the name of the city, the town? Nema Outpost. And meets Rey, and then he's like, this droid has a map to Luke Skywalker. And I look at the girl next to me and I went, oh, we've missed things.
And
it was terrible.
The worst part for Ross is at the time I was 2 hours ahead. I was two time zones ahead.
Yeah.
And my show was so much earlier. I was actually done watching it before he had to go to his, and so I called him up and I'm like, hey, let me spoil everything for you. Just to be a jerk. I wouldn't have done that, but
that one I ignored you for.
yeah, that's true, because I told you I was going to do that beforehand. And so you're like,
yeah.
I'm just going to ignore your calls. And true to form, he did not answer.
Because when you did it for Rogue One, I did actually pick up. And you did not spoil
You
it,
fool.
which
Oh,
was
just
nice.
kidding. Yeah, you're right. I'm not that evil. When I don't care about spoilers. My feeling on spoilers is it's not my responsibility to protect you from your choices. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not my responsibility. If you haven't seen, like, Thor Ragnarok or something, it's not my responsibility to protect you. You have that responsibility yourself. Now, calling you to tell you and spoil you, that's on me, which is why I joked about doing it, but never actually did.
Right.
I would call him and leave him messages being like, hey, call me the second you get out of the theater so that I can stop exploding inside and tell you, you know, let's talk about this. So, good times. Oh, good time. It's been really fun, this new round of movies, I think. It's just, again, as a father, it's been a ton of fun seeing that joy on my kids' faces.
Well, and the joy on our faces. I mean, our next note here is how this has invigorated the franchise. It really has.
With a lot of question marks, because...
Well, yeah,
for me it has.
It's interesting, because I don't feel like the fur from the prequels had quite even died down yet.
Part of that was the Clone Wars TV show that was
you
quite
had
successful.
Clone Wars, you
that
had
started
Star Wars
in, like,
Rebels.
2008.
Yeah.
Well, Rebels didn't come out until after Disney bought it.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dave Filoni, who, if you don't know Dave Filoni's name, you should. I hope and pray every single day when I wake up that Dave Filoni is put in charge of Star Wars, because that man will do justice to the series. He really would and will and is. But in 2008, he had worked side by side with Lucas for years, really admired Lucas as a storyteller, and worked with Lucas actually to come up with an idea for the Clone Wars, a TV show set in between Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that tells the actual war stories.
Was he involved with the movie as well?
He was. The movie, oh yeah, that's true, good point. So the TV show was previewed, or whatever you want to call it, by a theatrical release of this 3D animated TV show that was originally the first 4 episodes of the first season, that they said, well, this could make a full-length movie. Oh, why don't we just do that to generate hype for the TV show?
That explains why the TV show just kind of started nowhere.
Right.
I should probably go back and watch that movie.
Yes, the movie's not great.
I've
That's
heard
another
that, yeah,
episode. But
I've
yeah,
heard
it's okay. If you understand that the movie is actually the first 4 episodes of a TV show, it's much more digestible. But anyway, then, so that was 2008. And then, because that came out in the summerish, if I'm not mistaken. And then the TV show started that fall, as TV shows are wont to do. And then in 2012, when Disney bought it, they said, Clone Wars, you're done. Bye. And fans outraged, and Dave Filoni probably, looked at them with sad puppy dog eyes and was like, but why, my beautiful stories? And they said, okay, fine. You can have one more finish this season that you were already on. You get one more season, 13 episodes, and then you're done. So he had to kind of wrap it up, even though he had the next 2 seasons, season 6 and 7, mostly done. They actually just needed to do like the rendering so that like people's lips actually move and stuff, like all the blocking and whatever was already done. And they had scripts for most of season 8 ready.
Wow. Ready
to actually start voice recording. And Disney came in and just said no. And so you had that sort of was halfway. I mean, 2005, you get episode 3, and 2008, you get Clone Wars TV show. So there wasn't a lot of time for Star Wars excitement to die down. People weren't excited about Clone Wars. I wasn't excited about Clone Wars.
It wasn't the same deal, of course, but
until I saw like part of an episode from like season 3, and I was like, whoa, what is this? Oh, I didn't even realize, because I went to see the movie in the theater, didn't like the movie, thought it was dumb, didn't realize there was that this was an introduction to a TV show, and so I forgot about it for like 3 years, and then I'm like, wait, there's a TV show? Okay, I need to go back and watch this, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh wait, that was that movie from years ago. Okay, and now Clone Wars is just fantastic. So, and Dave Filoni really knows what he's doing with telling Star Wars stories, so he is able to tell really good stories that get people excited and keep that excitement high for Star Wars, right up until Disney purchases Star Wars and then says, by the way, we're going to do our own movies. So there wasn't the same, you're right, there wasn't the same gap as the prequel and the sequel, so the reinvigoration was more of a, we're going to do live action again.
I think part of it, too, at least for me, was just kind of the sense, like, I talked about in the last episode how when they announced that they were doing the new ones, it was the prequels, it was just, what? They can do that?
Came out of nowhere.
They can just start making more? What? Whereas this time it was just kind of always in the back of my head, the awareness that they can always make more.
Yeah.
And that you never know. You never know. And so when it happened, it was less of a startling shock and more of just I thought this could happen. So it hasn't been quite the same impact. It has been massively profitable for Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
It has been a very big deal for a lot of people, a lot of big fans all over the place, and an ever-growing fandom. Like these prequels are slowly building a much more international base. For a fan base for these films than the Star Wars films have ever had. Like, there's always been people watching them internationally and loving them, but it's primarily been an American phenomenon.
Right.
Whereas now,
well, I mean, that's how it is even listed on like Wikipedia. I think it's an American space opera.
Yeah.
Is how it's described.
Yeah. But it's gradually building into a more international thing, which these days, if you want to be a massively profitable blockbuster movie, you have to do, basically. So.
Yeah, but our notes have reinvigorated the franchise with several question marks after, because it leads right into the next point, which is...
So
hold on, before we move on too quickly, I do want to make a note before we go too far, just so you can color my remarks. Before Force Awakens came out, I feel like I'm confessing sins. Before Force Awakens came out and really started generating hype, I had actually had the thought to myself that I might actually be moving away from a Star Wars person to a Marvel person, because Marvel was doing great stuff.
I don't even know you anymore.
I know. Because, I mean, they were doing so many great things at that time. And then, that was the thing. Honestly, I had that thought. A couple weeks later, trailers started coming out, and I was like, no, I'm still a Star Wars guy.
Much as I love the Marvel movies, they will never be what Star Wars is.
I just want the audience to know I'm having a hard time looking at my best friend right now. He's hurt me deeply with that comment.
He honestly is. He is. He's looking in the other direction.
See, and I'm kind of like, I love the Marvel movies, but I'll always be a DC guy at heart, even if
Marvel versus DC, I think DC, I like that better, but Star Wars is king for me. It always has been.
Star Wars podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Yep,
I thought this was a Doctor Who podcast. Sorry.
Oh, right.
So the last episode we talked about some of the good, some of the bad. We did our best in the first episode to talk about some of the bad, but there's not a lot with the originals.
True.
And so we're going to talk about some of what's been negative-ish and some of what's been more positive-ish. And I'm going to start with these movies. This set of 4 movies have been quite divisive in many ways among the fandom and out of the fandom. For example, we have the 3 of us sitting here, and we all generally agree that we like The Force Awakens. For Kyler and me, it's like, yeah, it's a solid movie. Ross likes it quite a lot.
Yep.
But then when it comes to the other 3, I love The Last Jedi quite a lot. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means, but it is probably probably my favorite of the new 4. Whereas the Solo movie, I thought, yeah, that's okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed myself. But Rogue One, I'm not fond of. And I have a lot of problems with Rogue One.
And see, for me, loved Force Awakens. Last Jedi, it was okay. I'm kind of on the line between okay and liking it. I mean, I kind of go back and forth depending on what mood I'm in. Solo, I was very meh about. In fact, even just sitting here thinking about it, I don't own it. Is it out yet? I don't even know if it's out
not
yet.
out. It comes out like 2 days before my anniversary or something like that.
Oh, okay. Because see, that's the thing.
That's my anniversary present to myself.
I was so meh about Solo that it's just not on my radar. It's releasing on my.
I still don't own Rogue One.
I was there.
That just hurts.
Day 1 for release for Rogue One, the DVD. We made sure to get. I was Blu-ray immediately as it released. Same thing with Last Jedi. Solo is just didn't really do it for me. I mean, again, it was fine. It'll be. I kind of categorize them in their sets. So for me, Last Jedi, even though I liked it, will probably be, depending on how Episode 9 turns out, will probably be what I watch least of that trilogy. Of the standalones that are out so far, Solo was definitely going to be the least I watch of that trilogy. Probably of all the movies will be one of the things I watched the least. Did not hate it, just didn't particularly care for it.
This episode may break our friendship. I'm just saying.
We're not even getting into the nitty-gritty.
And for me, Force Awakens, like Chris said, I thought it was really solid. I enjoyed it. I like watching it. Then Rogue One, I loved. I think Rogue One is the best of these 4 movies to come out. It kind of depends on which one I'm thinking more about that day, whether I like Rogue One or Return of the Jedi better. Return of the Jedi, all my life, has been my favorite. And usually that's the one I finally settle on, but I'm like, Rogue One is real close. Then Last Jedi, which I hate. I hate it so bad. I've only seen it twice in the theater because, again, the tradition I mentioned earlier, took my wife to see it on Thursday and had reservations about it before, so I hadn't bought tickets for a Friday. And I'm like, if I go and I end up liking it, we'll go watch it Friday. When I took my kids to see it Saturday, I was really considering, I'm like, maybe I can get my dad to take my kids to see this or something. I did not want to watch it again. And then Han Solo came out, and I thought, wow, this is, it's pretty solid. I don't think it's as good as Rogue One. It's about on par with Force Awakens for me. I think it's a solid movie. It has a lot of fun things in it for the hardcore fans. But, I don't think it was the best, but it wasn't bad, and I enjoyed watching it. I will be buying it the day that it comes out. I did buy Last Jedi because I have to. It's a piece of official Star Wars canon, so I am compelled by my own moral code to own it.
See, and that's Solo for me.
But I remember talking with my mom about how much I hated it, and and she said, well, are you gonna get it? And I said, of course I'm gonna get it, but I don't have to be happy about it.
I have been teasing him with that ever since, because I do not own Rogue One. I have no plans to get it. I fully expected you to get it for me for my birthday this year, though. Just as a joke.
Oh man,
I thought that
I wouldn't get it for you as a joke. I would get it for you seriously because it's wonderful.
I almost bought The Last Jedi to give you, to just have, just in case you did that, so that I could give it to you. And then I remembered that you bought it already.
Yeah,
Anyway, so these have been divisive. We've got about as diverse opinions on these as you can get at the moment. And there is still more varied opinions out there.
Yeah.
And I personally have some theories about why that happens. The first is similar to what happened with the prequels. It's just that there is such a burden of expectation on all of these. And there is so much... there are so many... Everybody watches shows they love, and they have ideas and thoughts in their head. They have their own headcanon, right?
Yeah.
Up in their head, they're telling their own story. They're glossing over plot holes in their own ways.
Yeah.
They are adding backstory or inferring all sorts of little details that nobody else is. And so nobody has quite the same story in their head. But because Star Wars is so well liked, so loved to such a degree by so many people, the sheer amount of different stories in different heads going on is just astronomical.
Yeah.
And the thing with that is, like in writing, when I'm listening to various authors talk about writing, and we talk often about how the story that your audience tells themselves is always going to be better than the one that you're telling them.
Right.
And that's generally for backstory, where it's like people fill things in. It's why it's always a dangerous idea to add more to a franchise of this, to any story. If you're going to write sequels, if you're going to write prequels, it's even more dangerous, because sequels, I'm adding more to the story and it might not go where people wanted it to go. Prequels can be even more dangerous because I'm retroactively changing what you thought you already knew. But it's all just dangerous, because everybody has their own vision of this is who Luke is, this is who Han is, and the more things get made, the more stories get made, the more stories get told in Star Wars, the more people are going to have their hands on this, and the greater the odds that a significant chunk of them are not going to be telling the same stories in their heads that you've been telling yourself.
Yeah.
And so the bigger it gets, the more we're all going to disagree, because there's just so many different ways to go with so many different things. Like a lot of the complaints I've heard about various Star Wars movies, not just The Last Jedi, but various, is just people going, no, that's not how this character I know would act. And I'll hear people say that, and then I'll go, yeah, it is. Of course it is. That makes perfect sense for every bit of that character that I have in my head. What's wrong with you? It's impossible to balance, and like it's not even in the way of like, oh, telling a sequel to that Star Wars movie that came out, Empire Strikes Back, this is never going to be able to land it. That was impossible. This is just astronomically beyond anything like that.
Yeah.
The bigger it grows, the more inevitable it is that it's going to hit wrong. And anyone who's delved into the extended universe, any extended universe,
Yeah.
has seen that,
Yeah.
where it's just like, you know what, or superheroes for that matter. It's just there are so many different versions of Tony Stark out there. There's so many different Bruce Wayne.
That's why I think
there are
Star
so many
Wars...
different Clark Kents. And the bigger Star Wars gets, the more Luke Skywalkers are going to be out there, the more Han Solos, and we're just going to kind of have to. This massively obsessed fandom is really going to need to learn to just buckle down and go, okay, I like these Luke Skywalkers, and I'm not going to worry about those, because there is enough here for me.
But I think Star Wars stands the best chance of, if not avoiding, at least staving off those pitfalls, because you have the holocron. You have Pablo Hidalgo and Leland Chee, who have the holocron, which, for those who don't know, the holocron is, in the Star Wars universe, it's like a book, an iPad, basically, that is used to store information for the Jedi, can only be accessed by the Force, things like that. In the actual world that we live in, the holocron is a giant database that actually exists, that has the actual canon information, name, date of birth, home planet, all this kind of stuff for every character, every vehicle, every planet, everything in Star Wars. And it's maintained by two guys, Pablo Hidalgo and Leland Chee, out in California. I forget exactly which city it's in. But and when Disney bought Star Wars, they said, "Okay, you two that are in charge of the holocron, you are in charge of," and this is why Disney nuked everything that wasn't the movies when they bought it. They said, we're starting from scratch. You guys are in charge of making sure that everything fits, that everything is congruous and the continuity flows.
That's nice, but I would look at Rogue One and say they've already failed.
See, yeah.
Like, I do not feel like... I feel like Rogue One creates all sorts of new discrepancies between the original series and what we've been given now.
And that's why I'm saying I don't know that they could ever... I don't know that any franchise, Star Wars or not, could ever fully avoid those pitfalls, but I think having one place where there is one single authority on what is and what is not can help them avoid some of those things where you might have literally the same Tony Stark doing two different things at the same time. You know what? Like there might be other.
Well, but see, I would point to comic books as an industry that have done a very good job of avoiding those pitfalls in the exact opposite way. Marvel went, okay, we've got Peter Parker, and then they went, oh, you know what? We're going to make a Miles Morales. We're going to have a different version of Peter Parker in this continuity, this universe. They did it by fracturing everything and saying, you know what? We're just going to make a Peter Parker for everyone. A Spider-Man for everyone, a Spider-Woman.
Right, but Star Wars' universe can't do that. We don't
that's
have
the thing, though. That's why I think Star Wars is going to be worse off with it.
Well,
because the comics have done it by going, you know what? Everybody wants something different from these characters. We're going to make a dozen different versions of these characters.
Yeah.
We're going to make a Superman, a Supergirl, a Superboy. And we're just going to fracture them all off in different ways so that everybody can find a Superman or woman that they like.
Or pig.
Or pig, or dog,
pig.
or...
No, like there's a spider pig. It's
yes,
officially
no,
like...
I'm aware of Spider. I know who Spider
I did not know that. Okay.
Weirdest thing. Especially when like they acknowledge it. Yeah. Like in the new animated cartoon, he mentions it.
Is he a crime-fighting pig?
He's Peter Porker.
This is a real thing.
Yeah, it's legit.
There's weird things in comic book universes.
But no, getting back to the point, I think already it's already kind of failed that. This Holocron Network, I actually hadn't even heard of that, being the big Star Wars fan. So only those that are super into Star Wars are going to hear about this and be able to accept the general the canon as decided by these two. Yeah. But the vast majority of people that are Star Wars fans that go to the Reddit aren't going to know about this, and they're the ones.
Well, and especially the more casual fans. That's like my younger sister loves Star Wars. Like she really loves it, not like we do. You know, she's not going to be coming in on this podcast anytime because while she loves Star Wars, she goes to every single movie. She's not a geek like we are. She's not going to be delving into all this stuff. None of that is ever going to affect her. She's just a person watching the movies
and saying I like those movies.
And saying I like those movies or I don't like those movies. And then going to the next one when it comes out and she's got ideas. The Holocron is helpful in a lot of ways, I'm sure. Like I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah.
But it's not going to prevent people from telling their own stories in their heads. And it's not going to prevent them from being upset when the stories that get told, even if they match the actual canon, do not match what's in their head.
Right. Yeah. See, and that's, I mean, I largely agree with you. That's exactly the downfall of Last Jedi, is that people, on every single point...
Sorry, those words trigger me now.
There were so many expectations going into this. Mm-hmm. Not even just like people writing their own story, but wanting a story. Mm-hmm. They wanted backstory for Snoke.
And that was the next thing I was going to... Yeah, you finish.
That's basically it. But just there were so many different things that people were excited to see, and that basically they didn't get to see any of them like they wanted to. Rey's parents, Snoke's backstory.
That's one that I didn't think they would do it, but I was hoping and praying and crossing my fingers that Rey would be a nobody. Yeah, that made me so happy.
I'm still not convinced they're going to keep her that way. So
I know.
I hope they do.
I know
it would. There are a lot of reasons why it would be foolish not to. But anyway,
that's for another episode.
Yeah.
It's taking all my willpower not to erupt.
Everybody's telling their own stories, and the other problem is that most of us are going into these not fully aware of what we really do want from these. You know, it's like you get into a movie and like a lot of people talking about Rogue One, they got in there and they just, oh my gosh, this is everything I wanted. I didn't even know, but now that I'm seeing it, I want that. I wanted this and I wanted this and I wanted this. And I was in Rogue One going, what is this? I didn't want any of this.
And that's so interesting because the same people that, well, not me, but I know a lot. I listen to other podcasts where they talk about these movies, and in those podcasts they say, Han Solo, it wasn't that great. They're giving us a movie nobody asked for, and I'm going, well, hold on, nobody asked for Rogue One either. Nobody was asking for that story. And I loved it,
when I
and
heard
so
what the
did these guys.
I went, why are they making that? And then I came out of the movie and went, why did they make
that?
And
I was thinking, like, when Rogue One came out, I was going, I would have not thought to make a movie about that, but that sounds like a very intriguing idea. And then I go into Rogue One and I go, wow, that was a really well-told, at least for me, that was a well-told version of that story, and I'm glad that story was told.
I worked with a guy who that's exactly what he wanted was Rogue One.
Yeah,
Because
a
he
lot
always,
of people really want.
yeah, he was always talking about how, Star Wars is all about, the Jedi and this big war and things, but he just wanted to know what's the person down the alley doing, and that's what Rogue One largely gave us.
Which I thought was one of the nice things about Rogue One.
And in the beginning, I was like, but you know what? But
now it's Chris's turn to try to not erupt.
I have always wanted that. I don't feel like Rogue One was that movie. Anyway,
well,
go on.
like
we'll talk about that one with Rogue One.
Star Wars so far, you're very heavily influenced by Jedi, which I love. I love, the magic and the drama and all that. But he was looking for more. Yeah, what's the everyday person? What's their experience?
I don't want everything to be that big epic.
Right. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? Yeah, I kind of could do with a movie in that space.
Yeah.
And then I felt that's exactly.
And
what
that's
we got
another
with
reason
Rogue One.
why I like Han Solo, or Solo, a Star Wars story,
Yeah.
because, again, there's no Jedi. It is about these are your average people in the galaxy who don't have force powers, and this is how they, make their living. Obviously, not everybody is a smuggler, but I thought it is nice to see movies without a lot of force powers and whatever that do kind of.
There's literally only one character in that movie that has any force powers, and they're on screen for all of 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And so,
Wait, who has force powers in Solo?
there was a certain cameo.
Oh,
at the
that's
end.
right stuff. Right.
Do we just want to say it? I don't care. about spoilers.
No, I don't do spoilers that close, at least. But
Yeah, that's why I told
I did not care for that. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, we're not. We're treading dangerously close to me not being able to just hold it all in.
Okay.
So, but everybody has different desires. And not everybody. See, it's like I said, a lot of people go into Rogue One and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is everything I wanted. I went into Last Jedi and was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things here that I've been waiting to see for so long, and I was just thrilled to see on the screen. Whereas a lot of other people weren't waiting for those and were just like, what is this?
And for me, things that I love in a Star Wars movie, I love a good lightsaber fight, but obviously you're not going to get that in Rogue One, and I knew that going into it because they said this isn't going to. You have Donnie Yen
you started
smacking
getting
people
there.
a little bit. But the other thing I love the space battles in Star Wars. Like, as a kid, watching the space battle of Endor always blew my mind. It didn't matter if it was like the 4th time I'd watched the movie that day. Every time that battle started, I was like, oh, here we go. Okay, TIE fighters, we got ships shooting each other, Death Star blowing stuff up. This is going to be great. I loved that. And so that's why Episode 3 is also my favorite of the Star Wars movies, of the prequels, is because it's got your big battles. That Battle of Coruscant is phenomenal. And so Rogue One, that final battle in Rogue One, I'm just going, yes, this is one of the things that I love the most about Star Wars, and you're giving it to me by the bucketful here at the end. And it was so great. And so for me, I'm just going, yeah, you totally delivered on the things that I love about Star Wars. And then Vader, just the hall monitor of the year. Oh, so good. Chris is making angry faces.
No, I'm trying not to. I tried to remind myself I'm not here to talk about this.
This, I think this reaction, though, is totally indicative of the fan base at large, is that whatever topic we choose, depending on the movie, we're going to elicit very strong, very anti.
Well, see, and it's funny. One of the strangest moments for me was actually when I think it was on my post about my mini review on Facebook about Solo, where we were disagreeing over Rogue One and where we'd rank these and everything. And this guy from that I used to live near, a friend of mine, he commented on there. This is not a guy I knew very well. All I knew is he played D&D and I played D&D, and we were like, oh, hey, we can bond over this. And then he actually moved away not long after that. We're Facebook friends and that's about it. And he commented on there and gave us like this long, solid paragraph on everything he thought was wrong with all of these new Star Wars movies, which was all of them. He doesn't like any of them.
Oh, wow.
And he was saying, like, they should have done this, and they should have done this, they should have done this, they should have done this, and literally every single thing he said, I was just like, wow, I completely 180 degrees disagree with you on everything you just said. Like, I'm a little floored here. Like, it was one of those, I'm not even mad.
Or in the words of Luke Skywalker, wow, it's amazing. Everything you just said is wrong.
Yes. Yep. And that's how it was just one of those where I was, when you meet someone that just thinks so differently from you that you can't even wrap your head around it. I was like this. I remember talking to this guy once where we're chatting about I was reading a book, and it was I think it was a movie related book somehow or something, and he was just like, oh yeah, I had this idea that I thought would be fun. Wouldn't it be fun to go and read the books that the movies are based off of? And I just looked at him like, you think that's a novel idea? Like, you have never read a book that a movie was based off of? And I was just so floored by the utter foreignness of what his life and his mind must be like compared to mine. That I was just like, I don't even know how to react. Like, yeah, cool.
See, and
I moved on. Because he's just so... But that's the thing is, this guy, this friend of mine on Facebook, he's a Star Wars fan. He considers himself a fan. But his opinions, what his desires, what he wants from Star Wars are so utterly different from mine. There is no way that this new franchise is ever going to please going to please both of us. That it's just not possible. Anything that pleases him, I am going to hate.
See, and that's so funny because that story has basically played out twice between you and me. The first time you posted your Rogue One review, and I was like, are you kidding? Okay, background story for the listeners. Chris and I were extremely close in high school. I probably spent more time at his house than at my house during high school. Chris and I think a lot the same in many, many, many regards, and on many topics we are totally right there with each other. So I naturally assumed that he would love Rogue One because, boy, that was like really great. And then he posts this big review, and I was absolutely flabbergasted that he didn't just love it. In fact, the opposite, that he hated it. I'm just like, what? Okay, that he didn't like it. And I was so floored by that, and I like must have blocked it out or something, because later, months later, like...
It was when you were helping us move in.
I was helping him move in, and this was like over a year later. I had completely forgotten that he didn't love Rogue One. And so we're talking about different things, different nerdy things. Star Wars comes up, and I'm like, oh man, right, Chris? Like, Rogue One is the best.
This is what happened. Let me tell you. I can almost do this verbatim because it was so hilarious. I loved it. So we're sitting there unloading stuff from the moving truck, and Kyler says to me, he's like, okay, since I already know what the answer to the question I would have asked was going to be, I'm just going to go straight to,
That's right.
How much did you hate The Last Jedi? And I said, I love The Last Jedi. And he went, what?
I nearly dropped what I was carrying. I stood, my mouth just hung open. I couldn't believe it.
I was sitting there, I was like, no, I really liked it. And actually, it may have been the first time in my life, in either of our lives, that my wife was even more pleased with a Star Wars movie than I was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a good thing she's not here right now. I might have words. But yeah, and so then I was like, oh, but you gotta love Rogue One, though. And he's like, no, don't you remember?
Yeah,
I wrote that book, and I was like,
this.
oh my, I don't remember at all. And he started telling me why he didn't like it, and I was like, Chris, I almost had to like stop helping him unload. It was, yeah. So
but he's a better man than
it flows. Yeah. Of course, I helped him, but it shocked me, and it was so funny to me that after I thought about it for a minute, I was like, oh, I do remember reading that. How funny that I completely blocked it from my mind. And I've had the same reaction twice now to the news that you hate Rogue One. I even had a little bit of that same thing tonight when I was like, oh right, Chris hates Rogue One. Oh, how are we still
It is
talking?
so jarring for him that he cannot remember that I don't hate Rogue One.
Oh, it's
just
so... I don't understand.
I find it a very, very deeply flawed movie, and it does not fulfill what I wanted from Star Wars in a lot of ways.
It's so baffling to me.
We'll get into that the Rogue One, in the Rogue One, and
we'll get into the whys of our positions in later episodes.
And given that, I'm kind of thinking that maybe we should skip this next bulletin of some specific things that were flawed in them.
Yeah, like, because again, in the past for these...
We're just going to get into it too deeply.
But you know what? I mean, I saw you write this, and I'm so interested. I hadn't even considered this. Can you give us just cliff notes, maybe?
I wrote
your thoughts.
On which? What?
Well, on the next point.
Yeah, I wrote those.
Oh, yeah, those are Kyler's.
Yeah. The cliff notes that I had written, which I am going to promise right now in front of everyone that I will not go deeply into these. They are just going to be the bullet points. But for example, some of the things that I know other people are okay with, but things that bothered me about the sequel trilogy, specifically Last Jedi, because I was mostly okay with Force Awakens. Poe's dialogue in the beginning, when he's asking for hold, when he does the holding for Hux. Yeah. To me, that feels very out of place with Star Wars humor. It feels much more like if Tony Stark were to say that line, 100% that feels like Tony Stark, but it doesn't necessarily feel like Poe and Star Wars.
See, now for me, I don't have a problem with that because it is consistently only Poe that does that.
Right.
See, in the Marvel movies, literally everybody does
it.
that.
Yeah.
It's a problem because straight-laced Captain America will stop to snark for a minute, and it'll be like, wow, you suddenly sounded like Tony, and then you became Cap again. And they do a decent job of varying up some of the jokes in the way they do it. Like, Ant-Man does not joke the same way as Tony, but there's still everybody, like, they don't have any straight men in this story, you know. There is no straight man to the funny. It's everybody's funny at some point. They're all making the snark. Whereas in these, it's Poe is very consistent in what his style of humor is. Finn is very consistent in his utter inability to be funny. Like I love it. Like I remember watching the moment where he's "Let's go, Chrome Dome" and hits, and I was just like, oh god.
That's
but at the
bad.
same time, I was like, you know what? Actually, Finn has been very consistent on that. He cannot he cannot snark on his feet. And I kind of love that line retroactively now because it's so consistent with Finn's character.
See, and I hear that line and I go, it's consistent with his character in the same way that Jar Jar going, how wooed is consistent with Jar Jar's
That's
character.
fair, I can see that.
I'm going, it doesn't feel appropriate. Well, I don't know. Finn, I feel his humor or lack thereof is more. It fits more than Poe's, but like it feels so out of place that I'm going. While it is consistent with the character, that it feels out of place.
I will acknowledge that when I was watching Last Jedi the first time, I did have a moment where I was like, "This feels weird."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this doesn't feel. But I got it over. I got over it pretty quick.
Yeah,
I went, you know what? Star Wars is 40 years old at this point.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere.
And
but
it's fine if it evolves a bit for me. I don't
right, because it has to some degree, sit with the times. Right. I was the same way. I had the same feelings about Finn's line in Force Awakens to Rey. Would you have a boyfriend? You have a cute boyfriend? It felt out of place for me.
Yeah,
just because. I mean, it was a good gag, but it didn't feel like it was a Star Wars line. Which I agree, there was an aspect of wasn't there like a mama joke in Poe's, I can't believe I was meshing those names. In Poe's dialogue with Hux, wasn't there like a mama joke or something?
No, but
there was some sort of very, very common us joke.
But that's the thing, is it's dating itself. Just like when Jar Jar is saying how wooed, it's like, wow, anybody that grew up in the 90s, you're getting a Full House flashback. But nobody in Star Wars, in A New Hope, says groovy, that dates it to 1977.
But their hair does.
Their hair does, sure. But you know what I mean? Like, but it also, I don't know, it works for the
I don't feel like there's any slang that's quite extreme enough that people 40 years from now are going to go, what are they? What?
Yes.
That feels so dated.
And that is true, but I think
there's nobody walking around going, awesome.
There's enough there that it feels jarring in the same way that Jar Jar felt jarring.
I wouldn't put it in the same category as Jar Jar, but I agreed. Like it hit me, and I went, that's a little weird, but it wasn't so weird that I couldn't get past it and forgive it for me. But I will add. Or do you want to talk about this bit with him?
Oh, that's fine. You can
see. I do want to talk about that.
This is moving on to a new thing.
Yeah,
so if you want to move on to
sure. We'll do Luke then to get him out of the way. So, Mark Hamill was mostly okay with his role in Last Jedi or Force Awakens, excuse me. And he was a little disappointed. He's like, wait, I don't show up till the very last scene. Okay, well, whatever.
Fun story real quick that I read today that part of the reason that came about is when Abrams and I forget who was partnered with him, when they were writing the script, they originally had Luke showing up earlier, and every time they did that, they just could not help but feeling like the entire story just suddenly revolved around Luke, and nobody cared about anything else anymore.
Yeah.
And so they finally just went, you know what? We're just gonna leave Luke out of this.
Right.
Because I remember when that opening crawl came up and it's Luke Skywalker is missing, me going, you're not gonna show me Luke?
Yeah. And it was very intriguing.
And by the end of Force Awakens, I was like, you know what? I actually think that was a good call.
Right, and I do too. I agree with how it played out. And the thing is, too, with this trilogy is J.J. Abrams, of course, writes the script for Episode 7. He also then writes out a general outline for here's what needs to happen in the story for 8 and 9. Based on what we've done in 7, here's where 8 needs to go, here's where 9 needs to go. You know, obviously the director and writers for those specific episodes will fill in the details, but here's the skeleton of the story. Rian Johnson comes along and says, yeah, that's nice, no, I'm not going to do anything.
And J.J. Abrams also signed off on all of that.
Because what's he going to do? No. They already told...
No, because he specifically said, no, I like what Ryan Johnson is
Right,
doing.
because remember, JJ was producer on Last Jedi, so he was in there in those meetings, approving, saying, "Yes, I will
So
pay
I don't
for these
know.
decisions."
Because I
you're
feel
making."
like you're building up Ryan Johnson as this villain, but the fact is that everybody involved.
I am because I hate Ryan Johnson, but even Luke or Mark Hamill, excuse me, reads the script for Episode 8 and goes, "Excuse me, what's going on with this character? I don't feel like this is Luke Skywalker. I feel like I'm playing somebody else. Might as well name him Jake," is what he says in his interview, which of course then Disney hurry and tells him to shut up, but of course it's on the internet, so it's out there forever. But Luke says, I disagree, or Mark Hamill says, "I disagree with every decision you have made for this character for Episode 8. That being said, I'm an actor who's been hired to play this role, and I will do that to the best of my ability, but I disagree with everything about this character."
But he's also been known to say that he loved the outcome. So honestly, I think those that have been saying that about Mark...
I think it's more Disney twisting his arm, saying you're
No,
not
but
going
see,
to
but
get fans angry at us.
But
Because now,
again, I hear that, and I think that's you going, "No, he's telling the truth when I agree with him."
Right.
And he hasn't changed his mind. It's just
he
him being
has, though,
forced when
because
I
now,
don't.
again, he's come out... Somebody tweeted, this is what kind of brought this up recently for this in my mind, is somebody tweeted at him saying, like, "Man, Luke Skywalker, the character of Luke Skywalker in Episode 8 makes no sense. Mark Hamill, can you please explain, or can you help me understand?" And Hamill, since has deleted the tweets because Disney told him to, said, "I'll let you know, I don't understand either, I'll let you know when I figure it out."
Remember also, Mark Hamill is a notorious troll on Twitter.
He is, but...
And even so, we're going to have an episode where we talk about The Last Jedi, and I will make him make sense to you because he makes perfect sense to me.
I would love, I want
I'm right there with
him
you,
to make
Chris.
sense.
You and me, bud.
No, and there are some things about his character in Episode 8 that I'm going, okay, yep, I can totally see that, but it was the outcome of his decisions that I have.
I had a lot of stuff, it hurt
So-
watching Last Jedi and being like, "What are you doing to Luke?" But by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, no, actually,
So,
the more I think
we
about
will-
this, the more
yeah.
it
Makes
makes for
sense.
me.
My bullet point has elongated. I've broken my promise. We're going to move on
you're
and
good.
save the
I
rest
am
of
going
that
to
for
add
another
one more for the negatives. Lucas's reaction. I do not feel he's unjustified in some of his dislike of it. Now, obviously, he had his own direction.
They didn't
did
do
not
a
go that way.
midichlorian series? How could they not?
But I think one of Lucas's most salient points in his mild criticisms of these, because he's done a great job of going, "Okay, no, I handed this off. I'm and every now and then stuff leaks out because that happens. That's fine, and he's human." But his most salient point in criticizing these has basically been Star Wars for him was always about new innovations and doing new things and going new places, and these have gone to new planets and stuff, but he feels like he watches these and he goes, "These new movies are nostalgia. It's them. Instead of exploring new places, it's them building up the walls and saying, nope, nobody can take us down here." And I agree. I love what they're making. The nostalgia is mostly working for me.
Yeah.
But I do agree that there's been a certain amount of and I don't think that's entirely true. Making standalone movies is a new innovation for the series.
Yeah.
And and that's, I think, a place where they're going to experiment a bit more. I do love seeing stories that are not about Jedi, and even more particular, not about Skywalkers.
Yes.
As much as I love the Skywalker lineage,
the universe doesn't need to revolve on their axis.
It's been a great story, and I am excited to move on to other things as well. And I always have been. I want a great variety, even though I know a lot of those are going to hit me, and I'm going to go, "Oh no, go away." But there'll always be new things that I do.
On that
too.
note, too, about the nostalgia, it's one of the main criticisms of Force Awakens that I actually disagree with. Is they're like, "Well, it's just a rehash of Episode 4," and I'm going, yes, it is. However, I still think it was the right call, because Disney's going, "Look, all of you fans, take a big, deep breath. Trust us that we can make movies that you like, that we will treat your franchise with love and respect. To do that, we're going to show you that we can take what you do love, Episode 4, we're going to remake that movie, but this is just to show you, look, here's some of the potential of things we can do." And then from there, we're going to branch out.
We had this discussion when we left Force Awakens, our second or third time seeing it, where, for me, I was just kind of like, no, that makes perfect sense. I've seen so many writers do this. This is what people do when they've written something people like, then they wrote more of it, and people did not like it, and now they're writing more, we're going to return to what people did like to try and straighten things out and reassure people that we know what we're doing.
Right.
It's what happened with Indiana Jones. We had Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was great. We had Temple of Doom. It was interesting.
Yeah.
And it was a mixed bag. And then because it was more of a mixed bag with the third one, they went, okay, we're gonna go back to our comfort zone a little bit. We're gonna reassure you we know what we're doing, and we're gonna build off of that.
Yeah.
We're gonna Sean Connery that. Always a good move.
Yep. Yeah, so I have no problem with Disney doing that with Force Awakens.
And that's everywhere. I look at like Legend of Korra. Season 1, very new. Season 2's very rocky, and Season 3, they went to a lot of effort to go, okay, well, we're gonna do this that we did in the original. We're gonna turn this into a travelogue where we're traveling around. We're gonna toss in more of this. We're gonna toss in more of this. We're trying to reassure people that it is familiar. It is what they know and love, and make that connection. And so when I saw Force Awakens, I was like, yeah, it is familiar. But that is a wise move, generally speaking, when you're writing something that has been through some rocky times like that. And so yeah, I understand the criticism. For a lot of people, it was just like, well, this is nothing new. But again, that's one of the divided expectations that we run into. There are a lot of people like that guy on Facebook was literally just saying, I just want more of the same. Like, why are they trying to do new things? Just rehash what they've done. That's all I want. And I'm sitting there going, well, that sounds boring. That sounds exceptionally boring. I would rather they just not make anything if all they're going to do is rehash what they've done. Yeah.
So, and that's why I like Rogue One and Han Solo. Or Solo. God, I always want to say Han Solo. Yeah. But
we hadn't noticed.
Yeah, right? But that's why I like those, because they are saying, okay, we are branching off. It's going to feel familiar, but it is also different. And yeah, I think they did a great job with both of those in that respect. And having very little expectation of what Rogue One would be, other than they're going to steal the Death Star plans, and we know that they're successful because Episode 4 is a thing that happened. But from A to B is all unknown, so I have no expectations. We'll see what they do. And then with Han Solo, it's going, okay, well, we know that he eventually ends up as a smuggler in debt to Jabba the Hutt in Episode 4, but from birth to that point is somewhat unknown.
Frankly, from birth to a very late point in his life is still unknown.
Yeah, well, that's true. And so I didn't have too many expectations. I mean, obviously, it's like, okay, they're showing us the Millennium Falcon in the trailer, so I anticipate seeing the Millennium Falcon at some point.
If they're going to do a Han Solo movie, they're going to have to.
Right, and that was somewhat anticipated, and the Kessel Run was somewhat anticipated, but how they handled the Kessel Run was different than expectations. And I was okay with that particular difference. I know a lot of fans were angry.
Yep. See, and one of my problems with Solo was just that they did all of the lore behind Han Solo.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that was supposed to make him great apparently happened in the space of 12 hours.
Well,
yeah. See, I'm just gonna real quick that in general I think is again that video on Beauty and the Beast, I highly recommend it, that Nostalgia Chick did. She goes into the current trend of it is basically just filling in gaps. Like one of her major complaints about the Beauty and the Beast movie, which I have not seen.
It's not worth your time.
Yeah, no, I never will. But it was that they're going to all these lengths to plug the plot holes that the internet has pointed out over the years, which just ends up creating new plot holes and confusions and problems, which is also my problem with a lot with any prequel or sequel or standalone that is set in the universe and which has as a significant chunk of its goal, well, we're going to show you all the stuff behind that, has I forgot that muting my phone doesn't mute that alarm.
Oh,
apparently.
Darn.
So I'm gonna just leave my phone alone when we're somewhere else when we're recording in the evenings, or just turn that alarm up, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, it's
we're very adequate podcast.
Yes, you reach this point where you're getting into too much minutia, you're getting into too much nitty-gritty, you're too focused on let's fit everything into the jigsaw puzzle of what we've already written instead of let's tell a good story. That's one of my major problems with Rogue One, is let's jigsaw puzzle this in where it fits, and it doesn't fit for me. And that's always, and again, that's a problem with any sequel or anything. There's always going to be parts where people are like, well, this is not the Luke I know, this doesn't fit. But when a massive chunk of your goal is, well, let's show all the behind the scenes and let's explain why the Death Star works in this way and why this happened and why this and this and this, you get into this point where it's just, it's not a story anymore. It's just a list of events that fit into they're trying to fit into a different story. And I think that's part of the problem with Solo, is that you start to get into that. You start to get into, well, we got to stick all the references in here. I still think they did a halfway decent job of it. I still enjoyed it and had fun.
Yeah.
But I agree that they were definitely pushing the envelope for me on how much of that they could do.
Well, and maybe this should be in a different episode, but I think they should have split Solo into 2 movies. They should have done where the movie started, and then like through his military career to the point that he gets meets Beckett, in the army, to show him growing disillusioned, because at the beginning of the movie he's totally cool with the Empire. Great, I'm gonna learn how to fly, I'm gonna be a pilot, awesome. Somehow he ends up in the infantry so he's clearly not a pilot. It's like that would have been an interesting growing disillusionment to the point that he sees these guys going, yeah, you know what, desertion, that sounds good to me, I'm out. And then you do your heist movie that is mostly what Solo is, and then can do a third movie where he does his first job that puts him in debt.
I can see some solid points there, but at the same time, I'm more of a, no, I don't want more.
Yeah.
Less is always going to be more.
I'm just, as far as telling a story that actually feels like a story, rather than saying, let's check this off the list, let's check this off the list, I think that would have been a better choice, because it would have shown the actual story and that progression of that narrative.
And even still, I was kind of sad that they did actually kind of undo Han and Chewie's meeting. It was supposed to be Han freeing Chewie and like freeing a bunch of Wookiees.
Well, in the old canon.
In the old canon, which doesn't matter, and I never read, so I had no expectations about it.
In the original canon, he basically pulled a Moses.
Yeah.
Like he was an officer, and Chewie was this slave that was being ill-treated, and he stood up and saved and killed the man that was mistreating him. He got court-martialed and he got dishonorably discharged and ended up in tough straits and had this Wookiee that just followed him around forever after that.
Well, see, and I'm going, that's essentially what happened in Solo.
There's some similarities.
Well, but
he's
again,
trapped,
it was more of,
he frees him, and then gets him off planet.
It was more of, there was supposed to be, Han was supposed to do something to help kind of free a bunch of Wookiees. And I mean, he freed Chewie at one point, but then he goes back and they did some sort of semi-liberation of something on Kashyyyk. I don't remember the specifics, but I know there was more to it.
But see, and this is another.
They go back and do that in the aftermath.
This is another of those broken expectations
Han
too.
and Chewie go back to liberate Kashyyyk.
Okay.
But this is another of those difficult disillusions as well, where it's not only do we have our own headcanons, we have our memory of the old stories,
right,
and that are always going to be there and are always going to jar against what's here and what they keep and what they don't. There are things that I'm like, oh, hey, they kept that. That's nice. And other things that I go, really? They kept that?
Yeah.
They kept the Kessel Run? I know there has to be a Kessel Run because it's explained in the movies.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the explanation for that was always a little silly for me. And it's like, well, we're gonna create this convoluted explanation for why you can complete it in a certain amount of parsecs, even though a parsec is a unit of distance and not time.
And that's why it feels convoluted in Solo, is they're trying to retcon George Lucas's.
Yeah, which I was always kind of like, just
lack
don't
of
bother.
knowledge.
Just say in Star Wars, parsecs are units of time, and be done. Don't worry about it. And that thing about the Star Wars fandom, that it's so big and so convoluted that we have to create these nitpicky explanations for everything. And I fear these new movies becoming nothing but nitpicky explanations for everything.
But even then, they didn't even really do it right, because the argument can be made that Han Solo didn't fly the Kessel Run. It was the ship that flew the Kessel Run.
Yeah, but he's flying the ship.
But I mean, it was an autopiloted,
that's fair.
course by
Anyway,
the robot.
Save it for the Solo
discussion. Where there is
yeah.
that episode.
Anyway, all in all, though, we're all finding stuff we enjoy with these new movies.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting, I think, to see down the line how we feel about these in 15, 20 years. Because I know how I feel about the prequels now is definitely not how I feel about the prequels when they came out.
Right.
And it's definitely not how I felt about the prequels a decade after that. It's evolved, and I feel like I'm getting pretty stable on what I feel about the prequels. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at with these.
Yeah, that's.
down the
I think
line.
I said it either this episode or last episode, is that it'll be interesting to see. Give it 10 years and let's then talk about the sequel trilogy and how we feel about it.
Yeah, and particularly when we only have 2 of the movies.
Right. I mean, how do you judge the original trilogy when the last thing between Vader and Luke is he chops off his hand and is like, join me? How do you it's hard to predict how you're going to feel, how the story's going to wrap up, because there may be things in episode 9 that make me go, oh, okay, well, I'm okay with episode 8 now because episode 9 did this and this and this.
Yep. And that's it's that lady with her complaint about Leia choosing Han instead of Luke. It's once you get episode 6, that's just kind of a silly complaint.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
But all in all, I'm still having fun. I feel like that for me, that's what's important. Is Star Wars is about fun, and all in all, taken as a net whole, I'm still having fun with Star Wars.
I think we can probably quickly get through the good of these new movies, right?
Well, we need to talk about music first because our discussion earlier before the podcast started was generally bad-ish. Not bad,
but
nothing.
So so
start us off.
These guys were wanting to put music in the good category, and I said, "Well, hold on, guys. The original trilogy, you've got music in every single episode, or every single episode of the original trilogy that is iconic to that episode. You think Luke's Binary Suns, you've got the Imperial March, you've got." In the prequels, even each one of those movies has at least one really great piece. You've got the Duel of the Fates, you've got Across the Stars, you've got the Battle of the
Battle of the Heroes.
Yeah, Battle of the Heroes. Thank you. That are really iconic, and you hear that music, and you know exactly what scene is playing. You can picture it in your head. And I said, hold on, guys. If you were to play a piece of music from The Force Awakens, for example, could you tell me if that was from Force Awakens or Rogue One or Last Jedi? Because, interestingly enough, I don't know if this will actually make it into the final cut of our first episode, but the intro music playing in the original cut of our first episode, I said, oh, is this like from Rogue One? And Ross said, no, it's Last Jedi. And I was like, Force Awakens. And I was like, oh, had no idea. Like, it could have been from any of these 4 Disney movies.
Well, and I will acknowledge, too, the part of my problem there is I'm a busy guy. I have not rewatched these new movies, nearly any of these new movies. Even Force Awakens, which I've seen more than any of the others, I've still only seen it like 3 or 4 times.
Oof. Makes me sad.
Yeah. But I wonder...
We've had it since 2015. How have you only watched it 3 or 4 times?
Because I've had 3 or 4 years since then.
One thing that I wonder if maybe they've gotten away from is when George Lucas and John Williams were talking about the music for 4, 5, and 6, one thing that George wanted to do with the music was to have something of a Peter and the Wolf sort of a concept where Peter and the Wolf is an old cartoon where there's no talking or anything, there's just instruments that's acting as the voice for the characters on screen. So you know that Peter's on the screen when you hear this little you know, and then the wolf comes on and it's a bigger, you know, kind of bombastic thing going on, and so you kind of know who's on the screen and kind of what they're feeling, just kind of in how the way their theme is played. That's where you get Binary Sunset for Luke. You have Leia's theme is just Leia's theme. You have Flying Through Asteroid Fields for the Millennium Falcon, which appears in Solo and also in Empire. So you have all these themes that are meant for particular moments or people or concepts. You don't get that in the new trilogy. And I'm almost wondering if that's because George wasn't there to say, hey, we need
See, but John Williams was, and you can't tell me John Williams doesn't understand music and how to tell a story with the music. Well, you know what I mean?
How to work with Star Wars.
Right, exactly.
But it may not have been as enforced. I mean, I feel like, because it did seem like it was important to George to have that. Mm-hmm. It may not have been as important to JJ.
Maybe it wasn't as important to John. Who knows?
True.
Well, but that's why he came back for episode 8. He actually said, I've thought about it. I don't want anybody writing music for Rey but me. I want to do so. Clearly, he cares enough, at least about the new trilogy, which actually he didn't even do the music for the standalone movies. But for this new trilogy, he obviously cares enough about Rey, at least, that he wanted to come back.
We'll see.
But
maybe something will stand out to me.
And you've reminded me, there is a Rey's theme.
Yeah, but I can't think of what it is. And I've seen those movies.
Oh my gosh, no, I can totally hear Rey's theme. I would recognize Rey's theme in a moment.
Yeah. Oh. So we
should do a quiz show. We play music and then see if we can.
Because I remember that standing out to me. It said that when she's walking out of the Star Destroyer and she takes the sled down the sand dune, it's what's playing there, and I would recognize that. So maybe it is just that I haven't seen it as many times that I haven't been able to build up that familiarity.
That really could be it, because obviously, like I said in the first episode, I have seen the original trilogy probably hundreds of times, and that's not an exaggeration. Yeah. And I've seen the Force Awakens, for example, probably a dozen, maybe 2 dozen times. So a lot, but not nearly as much as the others.
It should also be noted that John Williams did not do the standalones.
Yeah,
have we talked about that yet?
But he just mentioned it.
Alexander Desplat did Rogue One.
No,
he was.
Michael.
He was supposed to do it. That's right. And then Michael Giacchino came in and did it. That's correct. I don't know who did Solo.
I don't either, actually.
So Mixed bag, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I now that I think about it, I can definitely. I remember even sitting in the theater and that music playing and going, "Ooh, this is new."
Yeah.
And I like it.
I think you hit it on the head, though. It's a mixed bag. Like, the original trilogy, you can't say anything bad about the music. Like, it, from start to finish, is just great. And there's not... And even in the prequel trilogy, say what you will about the prequels, but the music is not the problem.
No.
The music, from start to finish, is just great. And I think for these new movies, the music can hit really well. And now that you say, too, like, Rey sliding down, I can hear the little tinkling and, you know... And, okay, yeah, and that is good. And it's not that the music is bad, it's just not the same level
There have
of, like,
not been
iconic
any
themes.
Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
There have not been... But...
So...
I don't know, but I remember a lot of the pieces that... I remember watching Force Awakens and hearing pieces of music and being like, ooh, well, that's different. But I like it.
You know,
I like it.
Could the difference be that the music for the more recent ones hasn't been as driving? Because the reason... You think of Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, they're very, very action-oriented pieces. Across the Stars is very pretty.
It's also the least well-known of
It is
those
also
three.
the least well-known.
Like, a lot of people might hear it and go, oh, that's Star Wars. But a lot of people also would just go, I don't know, that's just...
Yeah, it's just one of the songs they had. So I'm wondering if Rey's theme might sit more in that realm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fair.
Again, I mean, it's still all great stuff. It just doesn't stick with you as much, it seems.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go watch Force Awakens again so I can hear it again. But...
Yeah. So, moving on to the good list. What do we have going on, Ross?
I'm all about the visuals.
Yeah.
I love the way the new
I think
movies
the
are
number
all
one
shot.
thing
Yeah,
for all these
I've
movies.
got
Yeah.
no problem. I don't think any of the three of us here have any problem with the way it looks.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous, and I really, really like JJ's return to a lot of the practical effects on the aliens and things, that they're actual prosthetic costumes and makeup
I think
rather
they have-
than CGI.
I think they have done a very good job of being judicial in where they use CGI, where they do not, and I think they've blended
That was
very
actually
well.
one of my favorite things about Force Awakens, is I'm like, this feels like watching the cantina scene again. It feels real. It feels like I can actually reach out and put my hand on this alien and it's going to feel like what I see.
Yeah.
It's going to feel slimy. It's going to feel rough. It's going to, and I can grab a hold of it. Whereas with like the prequels, as we mentioned before, there's a lot of CGI in it. I'm going to put my hand through it.
A lot of weightlessness.
Yeah.
But even also down to like the colors, especially
Yeah.
Force Awakens was so much more vibrant. And also
Yeah.
even using they were able to use actual glowing sticks in the lightsaber fights.
Yeah, so that you
Instead
get
of
the
just-
glow a
have
little
to-
bit better on the people.
So, yeah, you get that environmental lighting with it, and I thought
Yeah,
that
that's
was
actually a
great.
great thing that has come out of this new trilogy is the toy lightsabers are fantastic. Like, oh dang. It was so, thinking back, it made me happy too. That episode 1 for our podcast told the story about fighting my dad with the glowing baseball bat.
Yeah.
And getting to buy, when Force Awakens came out and they had those lightsabers, they're fairly expensive actually, for even at Walmart they're fairly expensive. But I was like, I do not care. Don't care. Buying them. Bought 2 for the girls, but then for my twins. Then they wanted to fight me, so we bought a 3rd. Then my wife was like, why didn't I get one? So we bought one for her. So we ended up with 4 for the 4 of us in our family. And
Now eventually
what
you're going to have to buy another
what did
one.
the twins want to do? Go into the room, turn the lights off, shut the door, close the blinds, make it as dark as possible, turn those lightsabers on, and lightsaber
My boys
fight.
have the dirt cheapest lightsabers you can get, the space swords from the dollar store, but they still love doing that.
And it really made me happy as a father to just be like, I am literally recreating one of my most favorite memories as a child with my children.
Yep.
How cool is that? How cool. And we actually, my wife came in and recorded it on her phone, so we actually have video of them. Oh, and I had like put the iPod on with Duel of the Fates in the background playing, and turned it off when my wife was recording so she could hear the twins talking, and they got furious that I turned off the Star Wars music during our lightsaber fight. They were like, no, turn it back on. So we had to turn the music back on, and then they're swinging around like crazy, and I'm actually having to do my best to defend myself because they're so wild and crazy,
Yeah.
But like, oh man, what a moment. Like, what a great moment. It was so fun. Oh.
But yeah, the visual composition of these movies, I would say, is stellar.
And I'll make your point first.
Even though I don't like Last Jedi as a movie, boy,
Yeah.
it looked pretty. And I know a lot of people, and it was weird, and felt out of place when everything goes silent when they ram the Raddus at hyperspace through whatever.
That was my favorite part.
Like,
Yeah.
it was a little jarring and weird to have everything go silent, but I was looking at it going, wow, that is so beautiful, though. I don't actually care that I'm bothered right now because of how pretty that looks.
Like, at that moment in the opening showing that I was in, there were people, like, cursing. Just like, just how impactful of a moment that was.
I
and
just
how much
loved.
that silence
I just loved walking in and seeing the signs on the doors saying, "No, the sound did not cut out. Our systems are working fine. There's just a moment of silence." And I was just like, "What?"
Oh, that's weird.
Really?
My theater didn't have any of that.
They had to put that up because they'd had people like jumping up in the middle of it, going like, "Hey, there's a problem here," and they're like, "No, there's not. Stop it! You're ruining the movie for everyone."
There was another moment, speaking of the visuals, that had not been well, it had been shown before, but not in this way, coming out of hyperspace. When it shows Leia coming out of hyperspace and you see the whole ship kind of lurch for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, that is such a little thing, but boy, that was beautiful. That was such a beautiful moment to see. This is how a ship works. You know, a ship this big coming out of hyperspace ain't going to stop on a dime. Here, you know, it is going to lurch while it sort of readjusts to real space. And I thought, boy, that's a little thing, but that was a really pretty moment. And I really enjoyed that moment.
For me, the thing that testifies most to how pretty Last Jedi in particular was, although I feel like, I mean, like I said with Rogue One when we were talking earlier, I went to that and I was like, well, whatever I don't like about it, that is a gorgeous movie. Like that is the prettiest Star Wars movie possibly that I have ever seen. And then Last Jedi came out, and now it's that one. But yeah, my little sister she is an artist. She is an illustrator. She is just finishing up a degree in illustration, and so she is very visually oriented, and she just is head over heels for The Last Jedi and its visuals in particular. Like, she bought an entire just gorgeous thick art book of The Last Jedi, and it is amazing to flip through. Man, I will tell you.
Yeah, the art. They nailed the look. That's for sure.
The we do need to talk about, though, the CGI used in Rogue One at the end for Leia and Tarkin.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There is that.
So hold on. Please let me say my
do it.
spiel, because I know
Seriously.
what you're gonna say.
I don't
Because a
know.
lot of people
I
said
don't know
it.
if you know what I'm going to say. But.
See, here's the thing. Okay, so it was another awesome moment watching Rogue One in the theater when you see this silhouette and kind of reflection of Tarkin in the mirror on the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like, you walk up to it and you're like, oh wow, that's an awesome little scene to use from found footage, and then you turns around and you're just like, oh, they've done Tarkin CG.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing is, I was so like starstruck, doughy-eyed. Like, even when you turned around, because the texture and everything on it was really, really well done. What happens is, both with Tarkin in that scene and with Leia right at the end, they look great for that scene until they start to move. Yes. For those of you watching and haven't heard of the concept, there's in doing characters, we have a concept that's called the uncanny valley, where we as people like to see things that generally also look like faces, right? We put them on our cars, even before the Cars movies came out, right? You see headlights or eyes, So things that look more like people, we identify more with and we like them. Until you hit a certain point. And then it absolutely drops off and everyone just gets completely creeped out. It's so repulsive.
It becomes unsettling.
Yeah. And then so they're
Uncanny, you might say.
Exactly. So they have this graph that shows, the more one axis is how much it looks like a person, the other axis is how much you like it, and it's this nice kind of gentle slope up until you hit that point, and then it completely bottoms out and goes underneath their baseline, and then right at the end comes back up. Rogue One is definitely on that upside of the uncanny valley, but we're still lacking in animation.
We're still in the uncanny
so
valley.
They look great when they're sitting still, but then they move.
I'm not gonna lie.
Right? And then you can tell.
When Tarkin turned around and I was looking at that, my initial reaction was, holy cow, they did a great makeup job on that. That guy looks exactly like Peter Cushing. And then he started moving and I went, oh, I can't. Wow, really? That's an interesting choice.
See, and I
would have I would have just preferred a makeup job, I feel like. But wow. Huh.
And I know you're going to talk about Leia, so I'm not done yet. You're going to talk about Leia because that's the conversation we had after Rogue One. So everyone thinks that Leia looks too round and too plump.
Yeah.
Because everyone remembers Slave Leia in the metal bikini where she lost like 20 pounds or something to make sure she looked good in that outfit. If you go back and you look at the opening of A New Hope, she's plump. She's very full cheek,
Which is
very round face.
yeah.
The funny thing, they actually
childlike, I
required
should
her
say.
to
Yeah.
lose 10 pounds before she could have the role in the first place.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Well,
Which
and
I
I say plump. I mean, plump is
Yeah,
maybe isn't
but
the
her
right word.
face
she
was
has a
quite
rounder
round.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has softer curves.
Yeah,
She
and by
has a
Return of the
round face.
Jedi, she had slimmed down a lot, actually due to smoking and
Yeah,
heavy drug
there
use.
were a lot of
Yeah.
factors,
Yeah.
But
again, it's the exact same thing.
I do
when
agree that she looked a lot like Leia at the beginning of.
She turns around and then she says her line, and they see that was you sent me an image saying, look how terrible it looks. You caught it in the middle of a vowel. No one looks good in still frames when they're in the middle of talking.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true. So for me, Leia, I initially was like, wow, Leia doesn't look nearly as good as Tarkin. And then I was talking with you about it after the movie. I was like, yeah, I was really great with that, but I thought Leia was just kind of dumb. I think they should have just, not had her say anything or keep it like behind her head, so you don't actually see the face or something, because everybody would have still known it was Leia and handing her the plans. I mean, everybody would have known what was going on. And you said, no, she actually looks that way. Go back and look. And so I did when it was a couple days later, I was like, I'm going to do this. I know Ross is wrong, but I'm going to check. I'm going to prove him wrong anyway. And so I did like a side-by-side, and I was like, holy crap, they actually nailed it.
Yeah.
She looks exactly like she did in A New Hope. Exactly. And so I fully admit, I was wrong on that. They did a great job. And with Tarkin, I thought they did a marvelous job anyway. I love Tarkin. He's one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. I love those cold, calculating villains that are, whether they are or not, they always feel like they're in control and in charge, and I don't need to, I love Tarkin. And so I remember in the theater, the camera pans in, and there's this guy looking through the window. My first thought was, is that Tarkin? Are they going to put they're not going to put Tarkin in here. And then you see the reflection. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is Tarkin. And I remember smacking my wife's leg in the silent theater. I'm like, it's Tarkin. And she's like, shh, you're going to get us kicked out. And I'm like, it's Tarkin. And he turns around. And when he started talking, I'm like, okay, it does break it a little bit. But I thought it was close enough. And you get used to, at least for me anyway, I got used to it enough that I would forget that he was a CGI character throughout and then I'd be like, oh wait, no, that's CGI. Dang it, that's good.
For me, it was the sort of thing where I was like, I've seen tons of aliens and CGI things in the prequels and stuff that didn't look that realistic. I can handle it on a couple of humans.
And so even rewatching it, looking for the CGI stuff, I'm going, boy, that is close enough. It doesn't even bother me.
The weirdest I want to not delve into it, but it's like the weirdest thing about Tarkin for me in that movie was I was watching him and I was just like, wow, great makeup. Oh, not makeup, it's CGI. I see. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. And then he started talking and I went, you don't sound like Peter Cushing.
But he sounds pretty close.
It's ish.
I
I thought he
didn't
was
have
way
that.
off, personally. Like, I heard it and I was like,
I mean,
what?
I recognize that it wasn't Peter Cushing, but the actor gets pretty close.
I did not
I thought
feel
he-
like
I
he
thought
did.
it was
I
really
didn't.
good.
and
that's another
especially
thing.
for the
I've
more
only-
casual viewer.
The second
they're
time
not gonna know.
the second time I saw Rogue One was without sound. I only had captions, and so I have not been able to double check that. But my initial reaction was, "Whoa, you don't sound like Peter Cushing at
No,
all.
what
is that?"
I mean, especially if you're familiar enough with Star Wars to recognize the voice of specific actors.
I can recognize, but that's the thing. I can't recognize Peter Cushing's voice.
So I think the casual person isn't going to know the difference. It's close enough.
Yeah.
And even for me, I'm going, I honestly recognize, obviously, that you are not Peter Cushing, but your voice is close enough
For
that
me,
I
for
can
me,
accept
it was
it.
jarring enough that I was like, why would you go to the effort of using a computer to paste Peter Cushing's face onto this guy and not do better with that voice? Like, it felt like I was like, why are you bothering to do the one and not the other? You should have just done a makeup job, left him not quite right, because his voice isn't right either. So it was just weird for me. That was what threw it off for me, was hearing his voice and going,
Interesting. I don't know.
what?
Yeah, the voice was not a
But I'll
Yeah,
have
it was
yeah,
not a
I'll have to go
concern
back
for
and
me
watch
at
it
all.
again. We'll
Yeah.
see. I'll borrow it from you, or I guess it's on Netflix. I can just do that.
That's true. It is on Netflix for another year till Disney launches their own streaming service.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That might need an episode on its own too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that. I mean, next.
But I think
next
that's
episode.
most of what we've got here. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool stuff. Even in the ones I don't like, there's a lot. Like, that's why I'm always so strong. And I don't hate Rogue One. There's a lot of great stuff there. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I love Star Wars, and a lot of the Star Warsy stuff in Rogue One I still enjoy, but I'm not able to do it quite as well. But yeah, it's still. I am happy they're making these, and I hope that I will remain happy as they keep making them. I'm worried of getting burnt out, but for now I'm on for the ride.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, I think that's about it for this episode then. I hope you guys out there will all join us next time. I'm really, really, really excited for next time's topic. This topic comes courtesy of Chris. It's Legends versus Disney, what we lost, what we gained in the purchase of Star Wars.
Alliteration of the old canon.
Yeah, I am so excited to talk about this. It's going to be awesome. So please join us. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @more civilized. Join our Facebook group. Join in the discussion there. A More Civilized Podcast. Just search for that. It should pop up.
The website.
Oh, the website.
A More Civilized Podcast.podbean.com.
There it is.
I keep trying to remind you to do that. But okay.
That sounds great.
It's fine. Whatever. You can find me on Twitter at Mr_R_star.
And for this episode, I am going to plug Dreaming Beauty is a webcomic on webtoons.com. Go to Webtoons, search for Dreaming Beauty. It is not by me. It is by my sister. It is edited by me. But I absolutely adore this story. It's amazing. And I think it's going to go some great places. So go find it. Cool. Have a good time.
Until next time.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you for listening to a More Civilized Podcast.